All right, students, so the reflux has been occurring for about an hour, well, actually a full hour, and the system has been cooling to room temperature. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stirring, and we'll disassemble here in just a little bit. Let me go ahead and turn off the water condenser. All right, and I'm going to add some hexanes to our sample. I'm going to place our round bottom flask here on my cork stand, and we're adding 5 milliliters of hexanes. Alright, so if you notice here, we do have some solid that's kind of stuck to the inside part of the round bottom flask. We'll be using a micro spatula to help get that out of our round bottom flask. But let me swirl this around, see if we can release any more of that solid. Okay, let's go over to the Hirsch funnel and dry out our solid. So my Hirsch funnel is attached to a vacuum adapter and anchored to a 50 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. This setup is necessary so that we can actually do some vacuum filtration here using the Hirsch funnel. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the vacuum. Okay, and let's go ahead and pour our solution through. I'm going to go ahead and use a micro spatula to scrape my solid forward. So here is 2 milliliters of hexane. Okay, and I'm going to give it a good swirl and pour. There we go. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to give it a good little swirl again. Try to gather all my solids to the middle and pour them out. So our product here is very nice and dry. I'm going to go ahead and weigh our mass here to determine how much crude sample we were able to isolate. But if you notice here, we have some nice chunks here of lighter color material. The lighter color material should be the adduct product. And so we'll be recrystallizing the sample in a bit to purify. I've scraped the majority off of the cone of our Hirsch funnel here. And so our mass of crude product, oh my, I've never had that occur.
Oh.
Yeah, so half a gram.
Oh.
Yeah, I've never had, 0.5000 flash in front of me before. So, okay. Now we will not be recrystallizing all of this. We're going to take 150 milligrams of this and recrystallize. All right, so we are a little above here, but this is the mass of solid that we will be recrystallizing. So we've got 0.1597 and for the mass of the adduct that we'll be purifying. All right, so far I've added the 6 milliliters of toluene. My spin vane is inside of my Erlenmeyer flask, and now we're going to go ahead and set this on the hot plate. And our goal here is to get our solid to dissolve, which is doing pretty well already. But we will let this warm up and stir until all solid is dissolved. Okay, now that we've got our solid to dissolve, it did take a little bit of stirring and manipulating and heating there. We're going to go ahead and add our hexanes, and we're going to go for 8 milliliters here. And if you notice, we are starting to get some cloudiness in the solution. And here is 8. Okay, so our very clear solution has now gotten quite opaque. I'm going to go ahead and remove this from the heat, and we're going to let it cool down to room temperature. But if you notice, you can already start to see some solid precipitating inside of the flask. If you'd like, I can use the black background and see if that might look better. Looks very good. Okay. All right, students, so our sample has been cooling in an ice bath, and if you notice, we now have a lot of crystallization happening inside of our Erlenmeyer flask. I went ahead and removed the spin vane before it went into the ice bath, just to ensure that our spin vane wouldn't be causing any problems. And so we're going to go ahead and filter this using the Hirsch funnel. I cleaned the Hirsch funnel in between uses with a little bit of acetone. And all I did was wet a chem wipe and cleaned the cone part here of the, of the Hirsch funnel. I didn't dispose of the solvent since we're basically going to put the same solvent in there one more time. Okay, now that I have my Hirsch funnel in position, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my vacuum. Okay, and let's go ahead and pour our solution through. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of cold hexanes here, so about a milliliter to help rinse my solution. Get it into solid to release here. Alrighty, so we'll let this solid start to dry on the funnel, but I'll ask Lee to come in very close and have you take a look at the color of the solid here. Oh yeah, that makes it look better. That makes it look better. For comparison, here's the color of the 9-anhydride. So gives you a good idea of visually what the two compounds look like as solids. Okay, so our sample is nice and dry now after being on the Hirsch funnel for about 5 minutes, and just want to give you one more look at the color there. And notice that it is a much lighter color than the 9-anhydride compound. But it still has a slight color in comparison to the maleic anhydride, which was just a normal solid white crystal. And so I'm going to go ahead and weigh this, see how much of our pure compound we were able to isolate. Okay, so it looks like let me close the windows here on our analytical balance. Okay, so I'll have Lee come in and zoom in on some data to provide you with for this experiment.